I've been kidnapped. The sect cafeteria had run out of salt. So old man Zhang gave me 20 coppers and sent me to the market at the foot of the mountain to buy 3 caddies of coarse salt. I figured while I was at it, I'd pick up the new scabbard my first senior sister had ordered. She commissioned it from the blacksmith last month, saying her old one was getting worn down. I also planned to pick up the rouge third senior sister had asked someone to buy for her, and then stop by the money exchange to help fourth junior brother pay off a loan. It was quite a lot of errands, so I headed out before dawn. Who would have guessed that halfway there, I'd take a heavy blow to the back of my head. Everything went black, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I found myself in a large hall. Pine torches flickered around the room. Great swords and spears hung on the walls, and the floor was covered in the furs of some unknown animals. In the center sat a tiger skin chair, occupied by a hulking man with a face full of scars and muscle. A single long scar ran from his brow down to the corner of his mouth. He was rotating 2 iron balls in his hand, their rhythmic clicking echoing through the hall. Black Wind Stronghold. This was the most notorious den of bandits for 100 miles around, specializing in kidnappings and ransoms. It was said that the chieftain, Black-Hearted Tiger, was a ruthless man. Not a single person he kidnapped ever dared to refuse paying the ransom. There was another person squatting beside me, dressed in silk and satin. He was pale and portly, clearly a merchant. He had woken up earlier than I had and was cowering in the corner, trembling and muttering, "Don't kill me. Don't kill me." I looked down at myself, gray hempen clothes, cloth shoes, and a broom tucked in my waist with property of Qingyun Sect miscellaneous labors carved into the handle. Then I looked back at the merchant. Yeah, our vibes were definitely not the same. A lackey came running over and squatted in front of the merchant. After looking him up and down, he turned and shouted to the chieftain, "Boss, we found 3 banknotes on this fat guy. 500 taels each." The chieftain's eyes lit up. "Ooh, a fat sheep." The lackey then ran over to me and rifled through my pockets. He pulled out 20 coppers for the salt, a debt note stating I owed old man Zhang 2 taels of silver and a half-eaten steam bun. The lackey's expression became very subtle. "Boss," he called back, "this kid only has 20 coppers on him." The chieftain frowned and scrutinized me. "He's dressed clean enough. He doesn't look like a pauper. Are you hiding your money somewhere? Speak up." I opened my mouth, about to say something. Suddenly, the lackey leaned in and whispered a few words into the chieftain's ear. The chieftain's face changed, not into an expression of rage, but a pale shade of white. "From the Qingyun Sect?" he asked, his voice noticeably dropping an octave. I nodded. The chieftain and the other leaders exchanged glances. The second-in-command leaned over and whispered, "Boss, although the Qingyun Sect isn't huge, I've heard that their first senior sister, Lin Kai-bai, is the head of the 72 sword cultivators. Her swordsmanship is divine. She's a total terror." The chieftain's mouth twitched. He hurriedly asked, "What's your status in the Qingyun Sect?" "I'm the sweeper." The hall fell silent for a moment. The bandit chief's brow smoothed. The second-in-command's expression relaxed as well. Several lackeys looked at one another, and some even burst out laughing. A sweeper? The chief leaned back in his chair and crossed his legs. "So he's just a sweeper." The second-in-command laughed too. "Damn it, gave me a scare too. After all that, he's just a handyman. A nobody like this. Nobody would even notice if he went missing." The chief nodded, the tension on his face vanishing as he reverted to his usual ferocious self. He waved a hand dismissively. "Fine, lock him up for now. We'll deal with him after we finish with the fat guy. No point wasting time on a sweeper." The lackeys broke into a roar of laughter. Someone shouted, "Chief, why not just toss him into the ravine? Save us some food." Another chimed in, "Wait, keep him around for labor. Look at his build. He should be decent at hauling stuff." I crouched on the floor, saying nothing. The merchant beside me gave me a sympathetic look. The chief stood up and walked over to me, looking down from his height. A mocking smile played on his scarred face. "Kid, don't blame me. Blame your own bad luck. Why would a floor sweeper go out in such clean clothes? My men thought you were some wealthy lord." I looked down at my clothes. They were indeed clean. Third senior sister had washed them for me the day before yesterday and even scented them with osmanthus. All right, take him away. The chief turned to walk back, but before he could finish his sentence, report. A lackey came scrambling in on all fours, looking like he'd seen a ghost. His lips trembled so much he could barely get the words out. BBBB, boss. The chief frowned. What's the panic? Is the sky falling? The lackey pointed out the window, his finger shaking like a leaf. Down the mountain. Down the mountain. What happened down the mountain? The Azure Sect is here. The chief's expression darkened. He strode to the window and looked out, then he froze. He froze for a long time. So long that the second-in-command couldn't help but lean in and ask, Chief, how many people from the Azure Sect came? The chief didn't say a word. His face turned from white to blue, then from blue to green, finally settling on a hue I had never seen on a living person before. It looks like they all came. His voice sounded like he was being strangled. What do you mean they all came? I mean, the sect master, the elders, every single inner and outer disciple. They're all here. Below the mountain was a dense, dark mass of people. In the front row, 72 sword cultivators stood in formation. The eldest senior sister stood at the very front, dressed in white, her long hair tied in a ponytail. Her long sword was drawn 3 inches from its sheath, its sword light soaring into the sky. She said nothing, merely standing there, her calm gaze fixed upon the mountain fortress gate. Yet that calmness was more terrifying than any threat. In the middle row, 36 alchemists stood in formation. Each held a cluster of spiritual fire in their palm. The shimmering flames joined together, dyeing the mountainside a deep red. In the back row, 18 elders stood side by side. Above each of their heads floated a spiritual artifact, glowing with flowing, multicolored light. The sect leader sat in a grand armchair. He wasn't cracking melon seeds or drinking tea. His hands rested on his knees as he watched the fortress gate. His expression was calm, but his knuckles on the armrests were white. Amidst the crowd was also old man Zhang from the kitchen. He had come too, carrying his profound iron walk on his back. The bandit chief's legs began to shake. He suddenly whipped his head toward me, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. You. His voice trembled. Who on earth are you? Big brother, I really am just a sweeper. I scratched my head. The bandit chief took a deep breath. Then another, and another. Then his expression changed. His face changed faster than the turning of a page. Just a moment ago, he looked fierce and evil, but in a blink, he forced a smile. The fat on his face bunched up, making a smile uglier than a crying face. His eyes narrowed, and his slits as flattery poured from his mouth. Oh, for heaven's sake! The bandit chief slapped his thigh. Brother, a misunderstanding. It's all a huge misunderstanding. Look at this mess. He yanked the ropes off me, moving so fast it was as if the ropes were red hot. Quick, quick, quick! Untie this brother. Who the hell tied him up? Are your eyes in your asses? Several lackeys rushed over in a panic to untie me. One was so nervous that after failing to undo the knot, he started gnawing at it with his teeth. The bandit chief personally brushed the dust off my clothes, cursing as he did. You blind dogs! I told you to go invite a guest, and you brought him back in ropes? A lackey muttered aggrievedly. Big brother, you're the one who said get that kid back here. I said get him back, and you tied him up? If I told you to go die, would you do it? What are you still standing there for? Go pour some tea. Fetch my prize tin a Dahong Pao. The bandit chief turned around, picked up a box from the table, and opened it. Inside were 20 silver ingots, neatly arranged. Brother, this is just a small token of my apology. He shoved the box into my arms. Take it, take it. Don't be polite. I held the box, completely dazed. 20 silver ingots. 10 taels each, so 20 ingots is 200 taels. I've worked at the sect for 7 years. With a monthly salary of 2 taels, even without eating or drinking, I would only have saved 168 taels. Big brother, this doesn't seem right. What do you mean, right or not? The bandit chief waved his hand grandly. Brother, why are you being so polite with me? Just then, Senior Sister's voice came from the foot of the mountain. She didn't shout. She simply unsheathed her sword. A clear, resonant ring of the blade echoed through the valley. The sound wasn't fierce or angry. It was even pleasant to the ear. But when the bandit chief heard it, his face turned pale instantly. Because in that chime, there were no unnecessary emotions, only killing intent. Senior Sister never wasted words. The bandit chief grabbed me and started pulling me outside. "Brother, hurry along down. Don't keep your master waiting." He escorted me to the mountain gate, personally straightened my collar, and even knelt down to tighten my shoelaces. "Brother, come back and visit often." Then he lowered his voice. When you get back, tell your senior sister it really was a misunderstanding. Ask her to please not raise our stronghold to the ground." I nodded and headed down the mountain, clutching the silver. When I reached the foot of the mountain, Senior Sister saw me and looked me up and down. She didn't say anything. She just reached out to fix my collar, which had gone crooked again, then turned and walked away. After a few steps, she said without looking back, "Follow." Just those 2 words. But I could hear it. Her voice was a little softer than usual. The sect leader looked at the silver, then at me, then back at the silver, and then back at me. He didn't speak. He just stared at me, his gaze deep and distant, as if he were looking at a rare treasure or perhaps a long-lost relative. His stare made me uneasy. "Sect leader, Qingyun." The sect leader's tone suddenly became exceptionally solemn. "How many years have you been with the Qingyun Sect?" 7 years. 7 years. The sect leader nodded. "In these 7 years, you have worked hard without complaint, toiling from dawn till dusk, sweeping floors, serving meals, brewing tea, and carrying books. You never cried out in pain or complained of exhaustion. Every bit of your contribution has been seen and remembered by your master." I was stunned for a moment. Therefore, the sect leader stood up, walked over to me, and placed both hands on my shoulders with a sincere gaze. "You must keep these 200 taels of silver safe. You earned this. No one is allowed to take it. If anyone tries to steal it, they'll have to answer to me." "Oh, okay." However, the sect leader's tone shifted. "As your sect leader, I must remind you, wealth is but a worldly possession. You brought nothing with you into this world, and you will take nothing out. We cultivators must avoid being burdened by external things. Don't you agree?" "I suppose." Old man Zhang, standing nearby, couldn't take it anymore. "Speak like a human." The sect leader glared at him. "I'm speaking like a human. Is that even human speech? What you're really saying is, I'm eyeing your 200 taels of silver, but I'm too embarrassed to ask for it directly, so I'm trying to swindle you out of it in a roundabout way." The sect leader sighed, his gaze distant. "I just feel that the sect really does need repairs. The roof of the main hall has been leaking for half a year, the wooden stakes of the practice field need replacing, and grass is growing on the roof of the library. If you were willing to sacrifice yourself a little more." "Master," the eldest sister finally couldn't help but turn her head. The sect leader immediately waved his hands. Just kidding, just kidding. How could I let a disciple sell themselves for money? Although our Qingyun Sect is poor, we have the integrity of the poor." Uncle Zhang curled his lip. "That's not what you said last month. Last month you said, the poor have their own way of getting by. If all else fails, I'll just sell my black iron wok. That was because there was really no other choice. Then go ahead and sell it. If I sell it, what will you use to stir fry? Use your teapot. That teapot was left to me by my master. Then stop shouting about selling my wok." The eldest sister shook her head helplessly and quickened her pace, but I saw her lips twitch slightly. I couldn't tell if she was smiling or sighing. Before they had gone much further, the voice of the bandit chief came from behind. "Brother, safe travels. Come visit when you have time." The eldest sister's footsteps paused. She didn't look back. She just tightened her grip on the sword in her hand. Then, the bandit chief's voice vanished instantly. Lu Ruan joined the sect a month later. That day, the sect leader had gone down the mountain to attend the Cultivation World's Tao discussion conference. When he returned, a young girl was following behind him. She was 15 or 16, looking fresh and radiant with a pair of large, bright almond eyes and skin so white it seemed to glow. Wearing a pale pink dress, her voice was soft and sweet, carrying a natural air of delicate vulnerability. "This is Lu Ruan," the sect leader introduced. "A heaven's spiritual root, a talent rarely seen in a century. From today on, she is a new disciple of the Qingyun Sect." A heaven's spiritual root. In a cultivation world, spiritual roots are divided into 9 grades, with the heaven spiritual root ranked first. In the entire Qingyun Sect of 372 people, let alone a heaven spiritual root, there was only one person with even an earth spiritual root, the eldest sister. Lu Ruan gave a sweet smile and bowed deeply to everyone. "Hello, senior brothers and sisters. My name is Lu Ruan. I'm 16 years old. Please look after me from now on." The second senior brother blushed. The 7th junior brother went back and looked in the mirror for 3 hours, then ran over to ask me, "Senior brother Shun, do you think I'm actually quite handsome too?" The eldest sister nodded and said, "Not bad." Just 2 words. But to hear "not bad" from the eldest sister's mouth was already a very high evaluation. Only I, an obscure face in the crowd, thought to myself, this girl's look isn't quite right. It's not that I'm bad-mouthing her. It's just that when she looks at people, there is always a sense of calculation in her eyes, as if saying, "Let me see what use you are." I know that look all too well. It's exactly like those merchants selling fakes at the market down the mountain. The first look they give you isn't hello, but how much silver is in your pocket. But I am an honest man, and honest people don't go around bad-mouthing others. So I just made a mental note and said nothing. Lu Ruan adapted to sect life very quickly. She was clever and a fast learner. She mastered basic techniques in no time. When the sect master taught her breathing exercises, she attained basic mastery in 3 days. When the elders taught her basic swordplay, she was performing it proficiently in 5. The sect master told everyone he'd found a treasure, and the elders scrambled to take her as a disciple. Her tongue was sweet, too, calling everyone senior brother or senior sister upon meeting. She helped the first senior sister polish her sword, helped the second senior brother organize pills, and helped the third senior sister water the flowers. She always accidentally messed up, but her attitude was so good that no one could possibly get angry with her. She was also pitiable. Her background was tragic. Supposedly, her whole family had been killed by demon beasts, leaving her all alone to wander for 3 years before the sect master found her. Whenever she spoke of this, her eyes would turn red. The entire sect felt sorry for her. Second senior brother was the first to speak up. "Junior sister Ruan has had it too hard. I must protect her." Third senior sister followed suit. "This poor child. I'll look after her more from now on." Only I, silently eating my meal in the dining hall, thought, this girl's look is still not quite right. But I didn't say anything. Lu Ruan was like a fish in water, winning everyone's affection in just 3 days. Then, she noticed me. Or more accurately, she noticed my special status in the sect. Clearly the most useless disciple, stuck at the 3rd level of chi condensation for 7 years and failing at everything I tried, yet everyone treated me with the utmost courtesy. First senior sister would proactively save food for me. Second senior brother would shove pills he didn't need into my hands. Third senior sister would knit me scarf for the holidays, and even the sect master would think of me first whenever he had something delicious. Lu Ruan didn't understand. She spent 3 days observing me and came to a conclusion. This senior brother Shen was just an honest, simple-minded sucker. Everyone was nice to him purely out of sympathy for the weak. Someone like this would be the easiest to manipulate. She decided to make her move on me. The opportunity came during the sect's monthly lecture on the scriptures. The lecture was taught by the sect master himself, explaining the essentials of cultivation techniques to the disciples. Calling it a lecture was a stretch. In reality, the sect master would sit on the stage, read a passage of scripture, and then ask, "Any questions?" When everyone shook their heads in unison, he would nod and say, "Good. See you next month." The whole process took less time than it takes a stick of incense to burn. This was because the sect master didn't understand much himself. He had mixed roots, and his cultivation was achieved entirely through sheer, grueling persistence. Giving a lecture was basically torture for him. After the lecture ended that day, Lu Ruan walked up to me with a beaming smile. Her voice wasn't too loud or too soft, just right for everyone around to hear. Senior Brother Shun, you've been in the sect for 7 years. You must have a lot of insights into the cultivation techniques, right? Could you explain them to us? At first glance, these words seemed to be praising me. But who among those present didn't know? I was a level 3 Qi condensation trash who hadn't made a breakthrough in 7 years. What insights could I possibly have? The surrounding senior brothers and sisters all looked over. Second senior brother frowned, wanted to say something, but third senior sister held him back. She gave him a look. Don't interfere. Let's see how Qingyun handles this. I scratched my head. Insights? I don't really have any insights. Lu Ruan's smile grew even sweeter. Senior Brother Shun, you're far too modest. It's been 7 years. How could you not have any insights? Just a few words will do. When she said, just a few words, her tone carried an air of anticipation, as if saying, I'd like to see exactly what you can come up with. I thought about it for a moment and spoke seriously. Then I'll say a few words. Lu Ruan's eyes lit up. I think cultivation is a lot like sweeping the floor. What? When you're sweeping, you can't rush. If you rush, it won't be clean, and the fallen leaves will fly everywhere. You have to take it slow, stroke by stroke, sweeping with the direction of the wind. Clean what needs to be cleaned, and leave what shouldn't be touched alone. When you're done and you look back, you feel at ease. I paused and looked at Lu Ruan. Cultivation is probably like that too. Take it slow, don't worry. When it's time for you to break through, you will naturally break through. When it's not your time, no amount of rushing will help. Having said my piece, I picked up my broom and continued sweeping. The surroundings fell silent for a moment. Then, second senior brother suddenly spoke up. Well said. Third senior sister also nodded. That makes sense. Fourth junior brother pulled out a small notebook and scribbled frantically, muttering to himself, Senior Brother Shin's lecture. Sweeping is like cultivation. A golden quote. Write it down, write it down. Lu Ruan's smile froze on her face. She seemed unwilling to give up and added, Senior Brother Shun, that was wonderful. Then what do you think we new disciples should focus on as we start our cultivation? I thought about it and said Uncle Zhang's food. What? Eat more of Uncle Zhang's food. You need a full stomach to have the strength to cultivate. Look at Elda senior sister. She eats 3 bowls of rice every meal, which is why she's the top sword cultivator. Elda senior sister glared at me, but she didn't look angry at all. Third senior sister covered her mouth to hide a smile. Fourth junior brother was writing furiously in his little notebook. Lu Ruan was left completely speechless. She opened her mouth, wanting to retort, but didn't know what to say. As for me, I had already grabbed my broom and moved on to sweep the next spot. Lately, demonic beasts had been causing trouble in the village at the foot of the mountain. It wasn't some powerful demon beast, just a few second-rank iron-toothed badgers that had been stealing chickens from several households in the village. The village chief had come up the mountain to seek aid, asking the sect to help eliminate the demons. Ordinarily, such a trivial matter would only require sending 2 outer disciples. However, Lu Ruan volunteered, saying she wanted to go. The sect leader agreed and told her to take a few people with her. Lu Ruan found me and said with a smile, Senior Brother Shun, won't you come with me? It's my first time hunting demons, and I'm a little scared. I hesitated for a moment, but I have to sweep the grounds. You can sweep when we get back. The sect leader has already given his permission. The sect leader agreed. That's right. He said you should come with me because you're familiar with the paths down the mountain. I had no choice but to put down my broom and follow her down the mountain. Joining us were the 7th junior brother and the 4th junior brother. The 7th was just there for the excitement, while the 4th was there to collect materials. When we reached the village, the chief led us to the back of the mountain and pointed at several badger dens. Right here. Those brutes are hiding inside. Lu Ruan unsheathed her sword and stood valiantly before the cave entrance. She glanced back at me, seemingly waiting for something. Senior brother Shun, do you have a plan? Oh, let me think. I looked around, walked over to a large nearby tree, crouched down, and began to dig into the dirt. Lu Ruan was stunned. Senior brother Shun, you just need to find a way to flush those brutes out of the cave. Why are you digging? Digging for something? Digging for what? I didn't answer and continued digging. After about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, I unearthed a jar from the soil. The jar wasn't large. It was sealed and covered with a stone slab. I lifted the slab, and a rich aroma wafted out from the jar. It was wine, and not just any wine. The scent was mellow and lingering, with a faint floral and fruity fragrance. Even someone like me, who doesn't drink, found it pleasant. Lu Ruan frowned. You had a jar of wine here? It wasn't me. It was Old Man Lee from the foot of the mountain. I moved the jar to the cave entrance. Old Man Lee brewed a jar of 100-flower wine last year and buried it under this tree, saying he'd dig it up when his daughter got married. As it turns out, his daughter married last month, and he forgot to dig it up. How do you know that? He told me yesterday when he came to the sect to offer incense. He said he was getting old and had a poor memory, so he asked me to help him remember. I brushed the dirt off the jar. It just so happens this wine will come in handy. Lu Ruan looked puzzled. You're going to use wine to lure the demon beasts? Iron-toothed badgers don't drink wine. Iron-toothed badgers don't drink it, but the spirit monkeys from the back mountain do. Huh. Before I could explain, a rustling sound echoed from the woods. 1, 2, 3. A dozen or so spirit monkeys leaped down from the canopy, crouching on the branches with twitching noses and eyes fixed intently on the jar of wine. 4 spirit monkeys. The fragrance of 100-flower brew was more enticing than anything else. Leading them was an old monkey with fur turned entirely white, looking as though it had lived for countless years. It jumped down from the tree, walked over to the jar, lowered its head to sniff it, and then looked up at me. Old Man Lee's 100-flower brew, you know it, right? I said to the old monkey. His daughter got married, so it's time to drink this wine. I borrowed it today to treat you all, but you have to do me a favor. You know the drill. The old monkey tilted its head to look at me, then turned around and let out a series of rhythmic squeaks toward the badger den. The sound wasn't loud, but it was rhythmic, as if it were speaking. The badger den remained silent for a moment. Then, an iron-toothed badger poked its head out, looked at the old monkey, then at the jar of wine, hesitated for a moment, and retreated. The old monkey squeaked a few more times, louder this time, as if giving a lecture. The iron-toothed badger poked its head out again, its attitude clearly softened. It crawled out of the den, walked up to the old monkey, lowered its head, and let out a low whimper. The old monkey reached out its paw and gave it a slap on the forehead. The iron-toothed badger shrank its neck and turned to bark into the den. Then a second, third, and fourth iron-toothed badger crawled out one after another, lining up in front of the old monkey with their heads bowed, as if admitting their faults. The old monkey turned to look at me, pointed at the badgers, then at the village, and spread its paws. The meaning was clear. They know they were wrong and won't steal chickens anymore. I nodded. All right, I trust you. If they steal again, will you be the guarantor? The old monkey patted its chest and squeaked twice, as if to say, leave it to me. It then turned back to the badgers and let out another round of scolding squeaks. The badgers kept their heads low, tails tucked tightly, each more submissive than the last. Once the lecture was over, the old monkey hugged the wine jar, waved a paw at me, and slipped back into the woods. The dozen or so spirit monkeys followed behind, hopping and skipping away. Lu Ruan stood to the side, sword raised, her entire body frozen. She had come to exorcise monsters, only to watch a monkey give the beasts a dressing down before they left meekly. She hadn't swung her sword once, nor had she even touched a single hair of the beasts. The village chief watched in stunned silence, only managing to choke out a question after a long while. Young man, Are you well acquainted with the monkeys on the back mountain? I suppose. Old Man Lee often gives me 100-flower brew, but since I don't drink, I give them some every year. They remember that. The seventh junior brother clapped from his side. Senior brother Shun, you're amazing. Using monkeys to drive away beasts. Who would have thought of that? The fourth junior brother was scribbling furiously in a small notebook, muttering, Records of Senior Brother Shun's Demon Exorcism, Volume 2. Luring monkeys with 100-flower brew. Monkey King scolding badgers. Beast retreat without a single strike. Brilliant. Lu Ruan stood where she was, unsure whether to keep her sword raised or put it away. She had intended to showcase the power of a heavenly spiritual root genius, but instead, she had spent the whole time watching a janitor use a jar of wine to summon a troop of monkeys, who then scolded the monsters into submission. She hadn't swung her sword once. She didn't even draw her sword. On the way back to the sect, she didn't say a single word. Seven junior brother spent the whole way talking. Senior brother, Shun, is amazing. Using monkeys to drive away demon beasts. Who would have thought of that? Old Man Zhang is definitely going to praise you again when he finds out. Fourth junior brother was writing frantically in his little notebook, looking up at me every now and then with eyes full of admiration. Lu Ruan walked at the very back, her face livid. One afternoon a few days later, Lu Ruan asked eldest senior sister for guidance on her swordplay. Eldest senior sister agreed and arranged to meet at the training grounds. Then Lu Ruan found me and said eldest senior sister wanted me to go to the training grounds to help move some things. I put down my broom and went. When I arrived at the training grounds, eldest senior sister was already there. Lu Ruan stood before her, sword in hand. Eldest senior sister, I'd like to ask for guidance on the spring breeze and drizzling rain move, Lu Ruan said, and then began a practice. She intentionally performed the move clumsily and then accidentally let the sword fly out of her hand. The direction the sword flew was exactly where I was standing. Watching the spinning sword fly toward me, I was a bit dazed and didn't dodge. It wasn't because of confidence. It was because I hadn't reacted at all. By the time I realized the sword was coming for me, it was already right in front of my face. Then a hand reached out, and 2 fingers pinched the blade. Eldest senior sister. I didn't know when she had appeared by my side, but she caught the sword between 2 fingers, expressionless. The blade hummed and vibrated between her fingers before coming to a halt. She glanced at Lu Ruan. The look wasn't fierce or angry. In fact, there was hardly any emotion in it. It was just a very calm glance. But Lu Ruan's face turned pale instantly. My hand slipped. Lu Ruan's voice trembled. Eldest senior sister, I didn't do it on purpose. Eldest senior sister didn't say a word. She handed the sword back to Lu Ruan and then turned to look at me. Are you all right? I'm fine. I scratched my head. Just got a bit of a fright. Eldest senior sister nodded and looked at Lu Ruan once more. This time, there was a hint of sharpness in her gaze. Lu Ruan lowered her head, her fingers gripping the sword hilt so tightly that her knuckles turned white. It was only then that I realized what had just happened. I looked at Lu Ruan, then at eldest senior sister, and after a moment's hesitation said, Junior sister Lu, you should be more careful when you're practicing your swordplay. It's dangerous for the sword to go flying like that. 7 junior brother did the same thing once, and it nearly hit Old Man Zhang's cooking pot. Old Man Zhang chased him around and cursed him out for 3 whole days. Lu Ruan looked up at me with a very complicated expression. Over the next few days, Lu Ruan quieted down quite a bit. But she didn't seem to have given up. During another sect dinner, Lu Ruan said in a cloyingly sweet voice, Senior brother Shun is really so amazing even though his cultivation isn't high. He's so popular everyone in the whole sect likes him. Unlike me, she sighed, my cultivation is okay, but I'm so lonely no one is ever truly kind to me. The table fell silent for a moment. Eldest senior sister put down her chopsticks and glanced at Lu Ruan. This time, her gaze held an extra layer of meaning compared to the one of the training grounds. It wasn't anger or a reprimand, but a sort of seeing through you calm. Lu Ruan flinched under the gaze, but she forced a smile anyway. Eldest senior sister didn't say a single word. She simply withdrew her gaze and continued eating. But sometimes silence is more frightening than words. Second senior brother put down his chopsticks and said 3 words, "Enough is enough." Third senior sister followed up, "Junior brother is a good person and doesn't hold things against you. But you can't keep bullying him just because he's a pushover." Fourth junior brother looked up from his rice bowl and chimed in, "Now that you mention it, junior sister Lu has been here for months and hasn't done a single thing for anyone, has she?" Senior brother Shin started helping people move things on his very first day. Lu Ruan's face turned pale. I sighed. Forget it, forget it. Maybe junior sister Lu is just bad with words. Let's eat. The braised pork old man Zhang made today is delicious. Third senior sister glared at me. All you ever do is play the nice guy. I gave a sheepish laugh and didn't respond. Lu Ruan kept her head down and said nothing. But I could sense she was far from convinced. Realizing that an open approach wouldn't work, she began to secretly dig into my background. Eventually, she heard something from fourth junior brother. This had happened several months before Lu Ruan joined the sect. When fourth junior brother told the story, his eyes lit up and his hands flew about. He was the sect's resident know-it-all. No news escaped his ears, and he was especially vivid when it came to gossip. You should have seen the scene when the Golden Cauldron sect from down the mountain came to cause trouble. Fourth junior brother slapped his thigh. Their young sect master brought over 30 disciples and blocked our gates, saying they wanted to exchange pointers. They were just looking for a fight. They had their eyes on that spirit field behind our mountain and wanted to seize it. Lu Ruan frowned, and then the sect leader went out to handle it. But the young sect master didn't give him any face at all. He said right in front of everyone, "Your Qingyun Sect is just a third-rate little outfit. It's a waste for you to occupy such a good spirit field. You might as well hand it over." The sect leader's face turned green with rage, but they had the higher cultivation. That young sect master was already at the peak of foundation establishment. Aside from eldest senior sister, no one on our side could beat him. What about eldest senior sister? Eldest senior sister wasn't there that day. She had gone down the mountain on business. Isn't that a coincidence? The Qingyun Sect specifically chose a time when she was away. They obviously came prepared. Lu Ruan's heart skipped a beat. Then what happened? Right at that moment, senior brother Shun stepped forward. Him, at the 3rd level of Qi refinement. Exactly. He walked out carrying a pot of tea, poured a cup for the young sect leader of the Qingyun Sect, and said, "Young sect leader has come from afar. Have a cup of tea and rest your feet." Lu Ruan was stunned. What good would that do? Listen to me. Fourth junior brother's eyes sparkled. The young sect leader laughed right then and there, saying, "Is your Qingyun Sect out of people? You sent a sweeper out." Senior brother Shun didn't get angry either. He just said, "Our sect leader said the matter of the spirit fields can be discussed, but today is really not the time. Eldest senior sister is away, and we cannot make the decision. How about you come back another day?" Would the young sect leader listen to him? Of course not. The young sect leader smashed the teacup and said, "If you don't hand over the spirit fields today, I will level your Qingyun Sect." Lu Ruan asked tensely. And then senior brother Shin said one thing. What did he say? He said, "Young sect leader, you might not know this, but next to the spirit field behind our mountain, there lies a swarm of spirit bees." Lu Ruan. Spirit bees. Yes, the kind third senior sister raises. They aren't big, but their venom is incredibly potent. The key is, every day, when senior brother Shun goes to water the spirit fields, he brings a few flowers for those bees. Those bees are very familiar with him. Lu Ruan had a faint inkling of what happened next. Then, senior brother Shun let out a whistle. At this point, fourth junior brother couldn't help but burst out laughing. Guess what? Those spirit bees swarmed out with a massive buzz. A dense black cloud of them. They immediately surrounded those 30-odd people from the Qingyun Sect. In an instant, the young sect leader's face neck, and the backs of his hands were stung over a dozen times. He swelled up like a pig's head. Lu Ruan's mouth hung open. That lot from the Qingyun Sect were scared out of their wits and fled in a panic. The young sect leader even tripped while running and rolled down the mountain. Literally rolled like a ball, tumbling all the way down. Lu Ruan couldn't close her mouth. The Qingyun Sect never came back to cause trouble after that. I heard that after the young sect leader returned, his face was swollen for half a month. Even his own mother didn't recognize him. After finishing his story, fourth junior brother patted her on the shoulder and said earnestly, "So, junior sister Lu, don't underestimate senior brother Shin. Although his cultivation isn't much, no one in this sect is more important than him." Lu Ruan nodded, not offering a rebuttal for the first time. But in her heart, she was thinking a swarm of spirit bees. Just because he brings a few flowers every day. I have a heavenly spirit root and have cultivated hard for 10 years. Yet I'm not as useful as a swarm of spirit bees. She wanted to ask around more. However, the beast tide arrived. That day, Lu Ruan was practicing her swordplay at the training grounds. She performed the move, white rainbow piercing the sun, with great poise, her sword light tracing a beautiful arc through the air. Eldest senior sister watched from the side and gave a rare nod, saying not bad. Suddenly, a piercing alarm bell rang out over the sect. The sound was sharp and ear-splitting, like iron scraping against stone or 100 beasts howling in unison, making one scalp tingle. Lu Ruan's hand trembled, and her sword nearly fell to the ground. The mountain protecting array had been triggered. Everyone began running toward the mountain gate. Old man Zhang dropped his spatula and ran out, faster than even the young disciples. Only later did I learn that in his youth, Old man Zhang was the top master in the cultivation world. He later became obsessed with cooking, but his skills remained. Lu Ruan followed the crowd to the gate and saw the sect leader standing at the very front, his expression more solemn than ever before. It wasn't his usual, "Oh, this is trouble" look, but a true sense of this might be the end. A beast tide. The sect leader's voice was low like muffled thunder, every word squeezed from between his teeth. 50,000 monster beasts are surging out from the myriad beast mountain range, heading straight for the Qingyun Sect. They are being controlled by a beast king from behind. The mountain protecting array can hold for 3 days at most. 50,000. The number was like a bucket of ice water poured over them. Everyone's face turned pale. At a full count, the Qingyun Sect had only some 370 people. Each person would have to deal with over 130 beasts. Even if they were just pigs, you would be exhausted just from the effort of slaughtering them, let alone monster beasts, and crazed ones at that. The atmosphere in the council hall was as heavy as lead, making even breathing feel difficult. No one spoke, no one moved. Even the usually most boisterous 7th junior brother kept his head down in silence. Sect leader. The eldest senior sister gripped her sword hilt, her voice steady, but her eyes betraying an irrepressible worry. "What do we do?" The sect leader remained silent for a long time, so long that everyone thought he wouldn't speak again. The array can hold for 3 days. After 3 days, he didn't finish, but everyone understood. After 3 days, once the array broke and 50,000 beasts flooded the sect, 370-odd people against 50,000 monsters, there would be only one outcome: death. Right then, make way, watch out, it's hot." A voice came from the doorway, as relaxed as if they were shopping at a vegetable market. I walked in carrying a tray piled high with things, walking at an unhurried pace with that simple-minded smile on my face that she hated most. On the tray were the sect leader's tea, the eldest senior sister's throat lozenges, the 2nd senior brother's medicinal patches, the 3rd senior sister's handkerchief, the 4th junior brother's knee pads. "Sect leader, your tea. This year's fresh harvest. I steeped it a bit longer on purpose. I know you like it strong." "Eldest senior sister, your throat lozenges. Mint-flavored, very cooling. You've been talking a lot lately. Your throat must be uncomfortable, right?" "2nd senior brother, your patches. Your back is bothering you. You should sit less and stand more. Don't always hunch in your chair. It's bad for your lumbar spine. Third senior sister, your handkerchief. I washed it for you and scented it with osmanthus, your favorite scent. Fourth junior brother. The sect leader interrupted me. Qingyun, now is not the time for tea. Lu Ruan stood to the side, a trace of a contemptuous smile touching her lips. The sect leader sighed, his tone weary. The sect is facing a great catastrophe, and you still have the heart to brew tea? I stood there blankly, holding the teapot, my expression a bit dazed. Then I scratched my head and said something no one expected. About the beast hide, I might know a little bit about it. The council hall fell silent instantly. Over 300 people turned to look at me in unison, their gazes like 300 cats eyeing a single fish. Lu Ruan also looked at me, her sneer shifting into confusion. The sect leader's voice changed, shifting from exhaustion to tension, with a hint of, "Oh, what did you say?" I hesitated for a moment, then pulled a small wooden token from my robes. It was palm-sized and crudely made, with rough edges and splinters, as if it had been haphazardly carved from some rotten wood. A crooked character was carved onto it. Fox. Beside it was a hand-drawn heart. It was pink, but the pigment seemed cheap. The color was fading, and one corner of the heart was smudged. The council hall was silent for a full 3 seconds. Then what is this? The sect leader's voice trembled slightly. A Demon King token. Those 4 words were like a ladle of cold water poured into a vat of boiling oil, instantly causing an explosion of noise. You say it's what? The sect leader slammed his hand down, shattering the table before him. Splinters flew, and tea splashed everywhere. Everyone erupted. Lu Ruan also looked at me, with a face full of astonishment. A Demon King token? Is that for real? Little junior brother, where did you get that? Startled by their reaction, I subconsciously took a step back and nearly tripped over the threshold. Well, last month when I went down a mountain to buy groceries, I ran into a white fox at the edge of the myriad beast range. I confessed honestly, a white fox. The sect leader's voice grew even tighter. Yeah, white fluffy about this big. I gestured with my hands, showing it was about the size of cat. It was crouching by the roadside, looking at me pitifully. Its stomach was growling, and it kept licking its lips. I asked what was wrong, and it said it had run away from home and hadn't eaten for 3 days. And then, the sect leader's eyes were wide as brass bells. Then I treated it to an osmanthus cake. I bought them at the market at the foot of the mountain. They're 2 coppers apiece. I bought 2, one for me, one for the fox. It was so happy while eating. When it finished, it rubbed its head against my hand, wagging its tail like a fan. The sect leader's mouth twitched, and the veins on his temples were throbbing. And then, it gave you this token. Yes, she said she was the Demon King's daughter, thanked me for the osmanthus cakes, and said I could find her if I ever needed anything. Then she pulled this token out from her tail, shoved it to me, and said, "So what else?" She also said the osmanthus cakes must be from that shop in a market at the foot of the mountain, the 3rd shop on the east side, Annie Wong's. The ones from other shops aren't good. She said she's tried many, but Annie Wong's is the most authentic. The spices are a secret recipe. The council hall fell silent for a full 10 seconds. Out of over 300 people, not a single one spoke. Lu Ruan stood in the corner, her mouth still hanging open. The sect leader took a deep breath, then another, and then another. I felt like he was about to suffer from oxygen deprivation. So, what you're saying is, the Demon King's daughter ran away from home, was starving on the side of the road, and was bribed by you with a piece of osmanthus cake. I corrected him. 2 pieces. I ate one too. I couldn't just let the little girl watch me eat. That would be rude. Fine, 2 pieces of osmanthus cake. The sect leader rubbed his temples as if he had a splitting headache. And then she gave you a Demon King token and said you could look for her if you needed help. Right. Which means you've had a trump card in your possession that can mobilize the Demon King's power, and you've been carrying it in your pocket this whole time without saying a word until now. I scratched my head sheepishly. I just thought it was a voice transmission talisman left by a little girl, so I didn't think much of it. Besides, the token is too ugly. I was embarrassed to take it out. Look at this craftsmanship. It's humiliating to show in public. The sect leader looked at me with an expression as complex as if he were staring at a monster that had popped out of a crack in a rock. The corner of his mouth twitched several times. My eldest senior sister and the others were completely stunned. Listening from the side, Lu Ruan's expression became increasingly colorful and complex. The sect leader took a deep breath. Try calling her. Now, right now. I picked up the token, cleared my throat, and shouted into it 3 times, Xiao bai, xiao bai, xiao bai. The token flickered, emitting a faint light. Then nothing happened. After waiting a moment, there was still no response. The sect leader frowned. Did she not hear it? Is the transmission broken? Just as I was about to speak, the token suddenly vibrated violently, nearly slipping from my hand. A shrill, thin voice came from within, thick with irritability, sounding like someone who had been jolted awake from a sweet dream. Who is it? Why all the shouting in broad daylight? Don't you know this fox needs her afternoon nap? Disturbing a fox's dreams. You'll get struck by lightning, you know. I was startled by the voice, and the token almost fell to the floor. Xiao bai, it's me. 2 seconds of silence. Then, Osman cake, big brother. That voice instantly shifted from grumpy to ecstatic, jumping up an octave. It made my ears buzz, and even the windows of the council chamber rattled. Lu Ruan was so startled by the sound that she took a step back. Osman cake, brother. Why are you calling me? Did you bring more Osman cakes? Did you? From Annie Wong's shop, right? I haven't had them in forever. I've missed them to death. I shot an awkward glance at the sect leader. He remained expressionless and gave me a continued gesture, though the corner of his mouth was twitching. Xiao bai, I'm calling you for serious business. Serious business? What's serious business? Is it more important than Osman cakes? The voice was filled with disappointment. Yes, more important than Osman cakes. Fine, go ahead. I'm listening. The voice sounded a bit reluctant, yet she listened obediently, like a junior who had been dragged out of bed to answer a call. I briefly explained the beast tide. 50,000 demonic beasts, controlled by a beast king, set to attack the Qingyun Sect in 3 days. After I finished, there was silence from the other side of the token. A long silence. Long enough that I thought she had fallen back asleep. Long enough for the sect leader to start frowning, and long enough for Lu Ruan's legs to begin shaking again. Then, Xiao bai's voice rang out again. This time, it wasn't the spoiled tone of a little girl, but carried an aura that sent a chill down one's spine, like a tiny spark suddenly erupting into a raging inferno. Osman cake, brother. Just you wait. Every word seemed to be squeezed through gritted teeth, dripping with fury. I want to see exactly which blind fool dares to touch a friend of mine. The light on the token faded. The council chamber became so quiet you could hear a pin drop. So quiet you could hear everyone's heartbeat. 3 days later, the sect leader, the senior marshal's sister, and the others stood before the mountain gate, watching the distant beast tide with solemn expressions. A wave of black was spreading across the horizon. They weren't storm clouds. They were demonic beasts, dense and overwhelming. They surged from the direction of the myriad beast mountain range. Leading the pack were Tier 3 ironback wolves, each as large as an ox, saliva dripping from their fangs. Behind them were Tier 4 earth dragons, each as thick as a water bucket, carving deep furrows into the ground. Further back were Tier 5 thunderhawks, blotting out the sun, the sound of their flapping wings like rolling thunder. Creatures flying in the sky and running on the ground, packed tightly together like a moving black ocean. Tens of thousands of them. Lu Ruan. She stood among the crowd, gripping her sword, her eyes fixed on the distant beast tide. Her expression was hard to describe. It wasn't fear, nor was it impulsiveness. It was more like something that had been bottled up for a long time, finally finding an outlet. She was a heavenly spiritual root, a favored daughter of the heavens. A mere beast tide. What was there to fear? And she rushed out. Lu Ruan, the eldest senior sister shouted. She didn't stop. Junior sister Lu, the 7th senior brother also called out. She still didn't stop. She ran toward that black tide, growing smaller and smaller, further and further away. I stood where I was, watching her back. During the days since she joined the sect, I had been sweeping my floors while she practiced her sword. I was just an ordinary disciple, but she wasn't. She possessed a heavenly spirit root, a genius rarely seen in a century. Though a chosen one, she was too young, and youth is prone to impulse. And so, she wanted to prove herself. I could understand. It was just that. There were tens of thousands of monsters on the other side. Courage and talent alone were not enough. By the time I snapped out of it, she had charged into the monster tide. The first ironback wolf pounced, and her sword drew an arc. The wolf fell. The second, the third, the fourth. She was fast, so fast that the monsters fell before they could even react. 7, 8, 9. Her clothes were torn, and her arms were covered in blood, but she didn't stop. I shouted in my heart, "Stop trying to be a hero. Come back." She couldn't hear me. Then I saw those eyes. Golden, cold, and massive. A giant fox with gray fur emerged from the depths of the monster tide, its body like a small mountain. It looked down at Lu Ruan like a human looking at an ant. Lu Ruan's sword stopped in midair. She couldn't move. Even from this distance, I could feel the Demon King's pressure. It was like a mountain pressing down, making it difficult even to breathe. Several junior brothers beside me were nearly forced to their knees by the weight. Lu Ruan was still standing, but the Demon King had already raised its claw. In that moment, my mind was blank. I didn't know what I could do. I was only at the third level of Qi condensation. I couldn't even hold a sword steadily. Rushing forward would only be suicide. I could do nothing. I just stood there, watching that claw strike down. The sect leader was about to act. Just then, a flash of white light streaked past. Lu Ruan was sent flying, rolling several times on the ground. A white fox stood before her, tiny, about the size of a cat, spreading its short front legs and looking up at the Demon King. The Demon King's claw stopped midair. White fur fluttered in the wind like a clump of snow. Around its neck was a small pink bib embroidered with a few little flowers and a crookedly written character. Fox. Several lines were written on the bib in a clumsy scrawl, as if written with paws. Qingyun Sect is my friend's home. If anyone dares touch it, I'll get angry with them. It was Xiaobai. Lu Ruan was stunned. Are you my Osmanus Cake Brothers friend? Xiaobai tilted her head and looked at Lu Ruan. Lu Ruan leaned against a tree trunk, covered in blood, the pain making her vision turn black. Hearing the question, her mouth moved. She wanted to say no. She had barely spoken a few words to Qingyun. So how could they be friends? But she didn't say it. It wasn't that she didn't want to. She was in too much pain to speak. Xiaobai waited for 2 seconds. When no answer came, she blinked and nodded. Silence means yes. Daddy, you're not allowed to hit my friend. Friend? The Demon King was deeply displeased. Yes, she's Osmanus Cake Brothers' friend. That means she's my friend. Xiaobai stood with her paws on her hips. Daddy, you can't hit her. The Demon King fell silent. The claw slowly retracted. I heard someone beside me let out a long sigh of relief. I didn't know who it was, but it wasn't me. I hadn't caught my breath yet. It wasn't from fear. It was just that, a moment ago, I really thought she was going to die. Quick! Eldest senior sister's voice exploded beside me. Go bring her back. Several fellow disciples rushed out immediately. When Lu Ruan was helped back, she was covered in blood, her clothes torn in several places, and her face as pale as paper. But she didn't cry or scream in pain. She just gritted her teeth and walked back step by step. As she was brought back to the mountain gate, she lifted her head and looked at me. Just one look. I remember that look for a long time. It wasn't gratitude. It wasn't grievance. It wasn't the relief of surviving a disaster. It was resentment. It was rage. It was that specific brand of indignation that said, I don't need anyone to save me, and I certainly don't want to owe you a favor. She didn't say a word. She didn't even slow her pace as she walked past me. But I saw it. Her knuckles were white from how hard she was gripping her sword hilt. It wasn't me she hated. She hated her own weakness. I stood there and watched her limp away into the distance, unsure of what to say. Ahead, the Demon King looked down at Xiao Bai, his golden eyes full of exasperation and a hint of, "Doty, daughter, do you have any idea what you're doing?" Xiao Bai looked up at her father, refusing to back down, her little paws planted on her hips. "I do. I'm protecting my friend." Friend. The Demon King's gaze swept across everyone from the Qingyun Sect. His eyes were like twin abysses. Everyone felt as if they were being seen through. Finally, his gaze landed on me, him, that kid at the third level of Qi refinement. Xiaobai nodded, her little head bobbing like a chick pecking at grain. Yes, him. He treated me to Osmanus cakes. From Aunt Wong's shop. They're super delicious. You should try some next time, Dad. Everyone present almost thought they had misheard. The Demon King's daughter was recommending Osmanus cakes to the Demon King. The Demon King looked utterly helpless, his golden eyes fixed on me as if scrutinizing something. Daughter, the Demon King's voice rumbled like thunder. You are the heir to the Demon King, and you're standing against your father single-handedly for the sake of 2 Osmanus cakes. I am not single-handed. Xiaobai corrected him, solemnly counting on her paws. I brought 500 rabbits to cheer for me. They're behind us. They haven't arrived yet. The Demon King's lip twitched. 500 rabbits. Yeah, I trained them for 3 whole days. Every single rabbit can shout, "Go Qingyun Sect." Xiaobai puffed out her chest, looking immensely proud. Dad, do you want to hear them do a cheer? No, thank you. Everyone looked past the beast tide. Sure enough, clouds of dust were billowing in the distance as 500 rabbits came hopping along in a neat formation, each waving a small flower in each paw. The rabbit at the very front was even holding a wooden sign that had "Go Qingyun Sect" written on it in crooked characters. The sect leader, the first senior sister, and the others were all completely dumbfounded. The Demon King's lip twitched again, his golden eyes filled with exasperation. Daughter, can you please act a bit more like the heir to the Demon King? Xiaobai's eyes widened in defiance. What do you mean? This is me demonstrating the magnanimity of a Demon King. What kind of spirit? The spirit of repaying kindness. He treated me to Osmanus cakes, so I'm helping him resolve the crisis of the Azure Cloud sect. Isn't this exactly what you meant by repaying a drop of water with a gushing spring? You said it yourself. I remember everything. The Demon King opened his mouth but found himself speechless. Xiaobai continued, her voice growing even louder. Father, why did you start this beast tide? Are you trying to destroy the Azure Cloud sect? The Demon King remained silent. Silence was an admission. I knew it. Xiaobai stomped her feet in anger, her little paws thumping against the ground and kicking up a cloud of dust. Father, how could you do this? The Azure Cloud sect is where my friends live. It's where my Osmanus cake brother is. Why are you attacking them? The Demon King sighed. That sigh was like a gale, blowing everyone's hair back. Daughter, this is strategy. The Azure Cloud sect is located at a junction of spiritual energy. If we control this place, our Fox clan can. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Xiaobai covered her ears and shook her head like a rattle, her eyes brimming with tears. Anyway, you can't attack the Azure Cloud sect. If you want to attack them, you'll have to go through me first. Father, you promised Mother that after she passed away, you wouldn't go to war anymore. You're breaking your word. You're a liar. No, a fox liar. Why, the Demon King. At that moment, I couldn't help but take a step forward. Eldest senior sister grabbed me, her grip so strong she nearly pulled me over. Have you gone mad too? I want to say a few words to the Demon King. It'll be fine. I gently shook off her hand. Behind me, many of my fellow disciples called out for me to come back, their voices rising and falling. But I didn't look back. The Demon King looked down at me. There was no killing intent in his golden eyes, only scrutiny. It wasn't the look one gives prey, but the look one gives an interesting object. You are the human who treated my daughter to Osmanus cakes. Yes. Third stage of Qi refining. Yes. For 7 years now. Do you know who I am? I do. The Demon King of the Myriad Beast Range, Xiao Bai's father. The Demon King narrowed his eyes slightly, his golden pupils contracting. You aren't afraid of me? I thought about it. I am. But there are things that must be said. What things? Regarding this beast tide, I know you on the Azure Cloud Sect's territory. But what I want to say is, the people of the Azure Cloud Sect are not bad people. They might not be the most serious bunch, but they have never harmed a magical beast. In eldest senior sister's flower garden, she specifically reserved a plot for spirit butterflies, planting only the flowers they like. Every time second senior brother sees an injured beast, he helps bandage them and even pays for the medicine out of his own pocket. Third senior sister keeps 3 stray cats, brushing and feeding them every day, treating them like precious treasures. I paused and looked up at the Demon King's massive golden eyes, each one larger than my head. Besides, Xiaobai really loves her sect. Last time she came, she spent the whole afternoon playing with the spirit butterflies in eldest senior sister's flower garden. She was so happy that she rolled around in the flower beads until her fur was covered in pollen. Does she ever have that kind of fun in the Myriad Beast Mountain Range? The Demon King fell silent again. This silence lasted for a very, very long time. So long that I thought he was going to swallow me whole. So long that eldest senior sister's hand had tightened around her sword hilt, and so long that a layer of sweat broke out on the sect leader's forehead. Then the Demon King spoke. Your name is Qingyun? How did you know? My daughter mumbles it at home every single day. Osmanus cake brother Qingyun. Osmanus cake brother Qingyun. My ears have practically grown calluses. She mumbles it while eating. She mumbles it while sleeping. She even mumbles it while she's bathing. I felt a bit embarrassed, and my face turned red. The Demon King let out a sigh. Very well. He turned and let out a long, low howl toward the tide of demonic beasts behind him. The howl was deep and resonant, like an ancient horn. It echoed through the valley for a long time, vibrating so intensely that leaves fell from the trees in clusters. And then, tens of thousands of demonic beasts began to retreat. Like a receding tide, they slowly and orderly vanished into the depths of the Myriad Beast Mountain Range. The iron-backed wolves ran at the front, the earth dragons burrowed into the soil, and the thunder eagles flew back into the mountains. The sky grew bright once more as the sunlight poured down, warm and pleasant. The earth stopped trembling, and peace was restored. The crisis was resolved. The sect leader breathed a sigh of relief. Eldest senior sister and the others finally let their nerves relax as well. The beast tide incident was over, and the entire Qingyun Sect returned to its usual tranquility. Lu Ruan remained quiet for a long time afterward. I knew why. It wasn't that she had had a change of heart, but rather that she was utterly shell-shocked. A level 3 Qi refining piece of trash using 2 pieces of Osmanus cake to settle a tide of 50,000 demonic beasts. The impact of such a feat was simply too overwhelming. Since childhood, she had known that the cultivation world was a place where the strong preyed on the weak and strength was everything. But now, a level 3 Qi refining loser had traded 2 Osmanus cakes for the friendship of a Demon King's daughter. And that little white fox had even stood up to her own father for his sake. More importantly, she herself had been saved by that same Xiao Bai. It was nothing short of a disgrace. But Lu Ruan did not admit defeat. After her injuries healed, she began a new round of maneuvers. She went to the sect leader to file a complaint. Sect leader, senior brother Shun. He's bullying me. Lu Ruan's eyes were rimmed with red, her voice choked with sobs. The sect leader was drinking tea. Hearing this, he set down his teacup, his expression remaining unchanged. Oh, he's isolating me. Everyone in the sect is ignoring me, and it's all because of him. The sect leader thought for a moment, picked up his teacup, and took another sip. Then how do you think this should be handled? Lu Ruan froze for a moment. She hadn't expected the sect leader to ask her that. I think he should be punished. Punished how? Punish him with confinement? Or dock his monthly stipend? The sect leader nodded and asked again. Then have you ever considered that the reason everyone ignores you might not be because of Qingyun? Lu Ruan was stunned. The sect leader stood up and walked to the window. With his back to her, he looked at me as I swept the grounds at the foot of the mountain. Ruan, when you first joined the Qingyun Sect, what kind of person did you think Qingyun was? Lu Ruan hesitated. Although he is very ordinary, he is quite kind to people. He helps everyone with chores, sweeping, serving meals, brewing tea. He is good to everyone. Then why do you think he is good to everyone? Lu Ruan could not answer. The sect leader turned around and looked at her. Because he doesn't need a reason. Lu Ruan fell silent. The sect leader walked back to the tea table, sat down again, and poured himself another cup of tea. Do you know why I took him in? Lu Ruan shook her head. 7 years ago, he was just a teenage boy with mixed spiritual roots of the 5 elements, rejected by several sects. He walked to the gates of the Qingyun Sect and asked me, "Sect leader, I'm no good at cultivation, but I can sweep, serve meals, and run errands. Could you take me in?" The sect leader took a sip of tea. I said yes. And so he stayed. 7 years have passed, and his cultivation is still only at the 3rd level of qi refining. But every single person he has helped remembers him. The sect leader looked at Lu Ruan, his gaze calm. Ruan, you possess the heavenly spiritual root. You are a genius rarely seen in a century, and you will achieve great things in the future. But you must remember one thing. Cultivation can be refined slowly, but the heart must remain upright. Never entertain thoughts of scheming against others. Otherwise, it will become the greatest obstacle on your path of cultivation. Lu Ruan lowered her head in deep thought. The sect leader said nothing more, simply pushing the teapot on the table toward her. Have a cup of tea, then head back. Lu Ruan raised the cup and took a sip. This tea. She froze for a moment. It's so bitter. Yes, Qingyun brewed it. When he makes tea, he never asks if others like it. He just follows a recipe he thinks is good for the body. It's deathly bitter. The sect leader took another sip as he spoke, his expression unchanging. But I've been drinking it for 7 years. I've grown used to it. Lu Ruan held the cup, staring at the dark brown tea inside for a long time in silence. When I came out of the dining hall, it was almost dark. I was carrying a bowl of hot soup. Old man Zhang said the weather was turning cold and told me to take a bowl to eldest senior sister. She had recently injured her shoulder during sword practice. Though old man Zhang didn't say it, he was more worried than anyone. Halfway there, I saw Lu Ruan sitting alone on the steps, hugging her knees with her head buried inside, looking like a huddled quail. I hesitated for a moment, then took a turn and sat down beside her. Junior sister Lu. She looked up, her eyes red, with tear stains still wet on her face. Seeing it was me, she was taken aback and quickly turned her head away, haphazardly wiping her face with the back of her hand. Why are you here? Her voice was a bit hoarse. Bringing soup to eldest senior sister. I set the bowl down beside me. Why are you sitting here alone? She didn't speak. I didn't press her either. I just sat there looking at the distant mountains. Twilight was settling in, and the shadows of the mountains layered over each other like an ink wash painting. After a while, she pulled a cup from her robes. I recognized it as a cup from the sect leader's meeting hall, lowered her head to take a sip, and frowned. So bitter. It's supposed to be bitter, I said. The sect leader's tea has always been this bitter. She clutched the cup and didn't respond. I didn't say anything more either. A fallen leaf drifted down from the tree, landing right on my knee. I picked it up and looked at it. It was golden and well-shaped, so I tucked it behind my ear. She glanced at me, and the corner of her mouth twitched. Senior brother Shun. Aren't you angry with me? Angry about what? Her voice dropped. I did so many overboard things. Targeting you, speaking ill of you in front of our senior brothers and sisters, going to the sect leader to report you. Aren't you angry? I looked at her. She kept her head down, her fingers clutching the cup. It's not that you've been bad to me, I said. You just don't know how to get along with people. She froze. Wandering alone for 3 years. You must have suffered a lot, right? My voice was calm, as if I were mentioning something trivial. Not knowing how to trust people, not knowing how to be close to anyone, always feeling like there's an ulterior motive when someone is kind to you. That's perfectly normal. She fell silent. It will get better in time, I said. There's no rush. If you don't do something right the first time, just do it a few more times. You'll get there eventually. I stood up and picked up the soup bowl beside me. If I didn't deliver it soon, the soup would get cold. Senior brother Shun, she called out to stop me. Yes. I am sorry. I looked back at her. You're welcome. Then, after a moment's thought, I added, by the way, you still owe me a favor. What favor? Sweep the floors for me for a month. She was taken aback for a moment, then she laughed. All right. This time, she was truly smiling. It wasn't that cloyingly sweet, fake smile from before, but a faint, sincere one, tinged with a hint of bashfulness. The next morning before dawn, I pushed open my door to go sweep, only to find the broom at the entrance was missing. Startled, I walked toward the sect's entrance and looked. Lu Ruan was there, holding my broom and sweeping. Her movements were clumsy. After quite some time, she had only managed to scatter the fallen leaves everywhere. But she was earnest, sweeping stroke by stroke, muttering to herself, "Sweep with the wind, sweep with the wind." I stood behind her and watched for a while before I couldn't help but walk over. Sweeping with the wind doesn't mean just following the direction it's blowing. It means using the wind's momentum. Look, I took the broom and gave her a demonstration. Like this, with a gentle guiding stroke, the leaves move on their own. She watched my movements intently, nodded, and then took back the broom to try again. The result was better than mine. Her leaves were gathered into a neat pile, while mine had already been half scattered by the wind. Fine, you learn faster than I do. Lu Ruan gave a triumphant smile. The days went by, one after another. Lu Ruan truly did come to sweep every morning. Her cultivation progress was also explosive. After all, she possessed a heaven-grade spirit root. She reached foundation establishment in half a year and the golden core stage in a year, catching everyone off guard. The sect leader declared that she was the most gifted disciple the Qingyun Sect had seen in 100 years. But her proudest achievement was not her cultivation. It was the time Old Man Zhang said in front of everyone, "Little Lu's sweeping skills have already surpassed Chang'an's." She jumped for joy. I scratched my head beside her. What's there to be so happy about? You don't understand. She shot me a glare. I'm just happy. Fine, fine. Eldest senior sister walked by without stopping, but I saw the corners of her mouth twitch slightly. Third senior sister shouted from behind, "Eldest senior sister, you smiled." Eldest senior sister didn't even look back. I didn't. You clearly did. You saw wrong. Fourth junior brother leaned in quietly and whispered to me, "Eldest senior sister really did smile just now. I saw it with my own eyes." He used his hand to trace a curve in the air. "How did you observe so closely?" "It's natural," fourth junior brother said solemnly. "Ever since I was a child, my ears have been long, specifically meant for eavesdropping on gossip." "And what's the use of this talent of yours?" "The use is immense." He tucked a twig behind his ear, looking quite smug. "Speaking of fourth junior brother, I have to mention something very interesting." That day, while Lu Ruan was sweeping, fourth junior brother scurried over sneakily and whispered, "Junior sister Lu, did you know? Regarding that beast-hide incident last time, you actually didn't need a charge in." Lu Ruan was stunned. "Why? You know Old Man Zhang from the kitchen? He used to be a legendary figure. That profound iron walk on his back was his natal spiritual weapon back in the day." "What? Should keep it down. Old Man Zhang doesn't let anyone talk about it. When he was young, he was the top expert in the cultivation world. That walk is incredible. One strike could level a mountaintop. Now he's indifferent to worldly matters, saying cooking is much more interesting than fighting." Lu Ruan's mouth hung open wide enough to fit an egg. And fourth junior brother continued, "Do you know why eldest senior sister didn't say a word that day and just drew her sword? Why? Because if she spoke, she'd break her facade. She's the type who's cold on the outside but warm on the inside. The moment she opens her mouth, her heart softens. So she simply stays quiet and draws her sword. That way, She looks the most fearsome. And then there's the sect leader, fourth junior brother said, getting more excited. The sect leader looks like he just snacks on melon seeds and drinks tea all day, but he was actually quite an honest and simple man in his youth. I heard that when he first became sect leader, he was scammed several times by the neighboring sect, and he was so frustrated he almost quit. Later he got smarter, but he's still soft-hearted at his core. He took in senior brother Shun because he saw his younger self in him. Lu Ruan remained silent for a long time. So, everyone in this sect has a story? Of course. Fourth junior brother thought for a moment. Eldest senior sister looks cold, but her heart is the softest. Second senior brother talks little, but every word is to the point. Third senior sister has a sharp tongue, but she's the first to rush in when someone's in trouble. Old man Zhang says he's retired to cook, but when something really happens, his walk is faster than anyone else's. And the sect leader looks like he doesn't care, but in reality, nothing escapes his eyes. What about you? Me? I'm just a runner who gathers information. But I don't dig into these things just to listen to gossip. Then what is it for? The fourth junior brother said solemnly. It's so that whenever the Qingyun Sect faces a crisis, I can immediately expose everyone's dirty laundry, forcing them to unite as one against the outside world. Lu Ruan looked at him, remaining silent for a long time. Aren't you afraid I'll tell others what you've said? The fourth junior brother smiled slightly. You won't. Why? Allow me to keep that a secret for now. Many years later, Lu Ruan was now a powerhouse at the nascent soul stage. The potential of her heavenly spirit root had been fully unleashed. Her name resounded like thunder throughout the cultivation world, and every major sect was vying to recruit her. But she went nowhere. She stayed at the Qingyun Sect. Today, I went down the mountain with her to run an errand. It wasn't anything major. The market at the foot of the mountain had a new batch of broom bristles that were supposedly more durable than the old ones, and I had commissioned someone to order enough for 3 brooms. Lu Ruan said she happened to be going to buy medicinal pills and that it was on her way. I knew it was just an excuse. As a nascent soul powerhouse, would she really need to descend the mountain in person to buy pills? But I didn't call her out on it. Once we reached the market, she went to buy her pills while I waited at the general store for the bristles to be packaged. The shopkeeper was slow. I waited for about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea before the items were finally packed. Lugging the 3 bundles of broom bristles, I walked out, intending to wait for her at the entrance of the pharmacy. As I passed an alley, several people stepped out, blocking my path. Oh, isn't this Shan Chang'an of the Qingyun Sect? I looked up. There were 5 of them. Judging by their attire, they were disciples from a small nearby sect. The strongest was at the early golden core stage, while the rest were at the foundation building stage. I had a vague impression of the leader. His name was Zhao something, and I had seen him once during the last sect conference. Step aside, I said. What's the rush? Zhao something smiled and glanced behind me. Why are you alone today? Where are those senior brothers and sisters who always protect you? I said nothing. Oh, that's right. Only a servant like you would do the grunt work of running errands down the mountain, wouldn't they? He looked around. No one is protecting you today. Perfect. He took a step forward, closing the distance. Shen Chang'an, don't you think you have a lucky life? 3rd level of qi refining. No breakthrough for over a decade. You're a piece of trash, yet the entire Qingyun Sect treats you like a treasure. Based on what? He spat out the word trash with heavy emphasis. The people behind him followed with laughter and surrounded me. The 5 of them blocked me at the mouth of the alley. There were walls to my left and right, and the back door of the general store behind me was locked. Based on the fact that you know how to sweep floors. Ha ha ha. Tell me, what's the point of you staying at the Qingyun Sect? To be dead weight. I hoisted my broom and said nothing. I'd heard this kind of talk far too many times over the last decade or so. My ears were callous to it. Zhao, whatever his name was, reached out and patted my face. He didn't use much force, but the gesture was deeply insulting. 1 tap, too. To be honest, someone like you should just leave the sect. You're nothing but a level 3 qi refining waste, just taking up space and wasting resources. You. His hand froze in midair. A hand had reached out from behind him and clamped down on his wrist. Lu Ruan's voice came from behind him, soft and preternaturally calm. Who are you calling a waste? Zhao Whatever's face changed instantly. He turned his head stiffly. Lu Ruan was standing right behind him. I didn't know when she'd returned, but she was still carrying that small cloth bag of medicinal pills. Her expression was flat, devoid of any emotion. Lu Ruan. Lu Ruan didn't spare him a glance. She tilted her head and noticed the red marks on my face. The 2 taps he'd given me hadn't been hard, but they'd left a flush. Her gaze shifted. It wasn't anger, but something far colder than anger. Did you hit him? I didn't. I just patted him. Asterisk slap. Asterisk, Zhao Whatever was sent flying. He literally flew from the mouth of the alley all the way to the other end. With a loud thud, he slammed into the wall, slid down, and slumped onto the ground, motionless. Half of his face was swollen like a pig's, and blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. The remaining 4 were stunned, speechless. Lu Ruan stood in front of me, staring at them. Their legs were visibly shaking. Kneel. Fui hut. Asterisk, all 4 dropped to their knees in unison, each trying to be faster than the last. Lu Ruan walked up to the person closest to her. You were laughing just now. The man was trembling violently, his teeth chattering. I was wrong. What were you wrong about? I shouldn't have laughed. Laughed at what? Laughing at senior brother Shun. Lu Ruan nodded. What is his name? The person froze for a moment. What is his name? Lu Ruan repeated. Shun Chang'an. Louder. Shun Chang'an. Lu Ruan turned to look at the other 3. What about you? Do you know what his name is? Shun Chang'an. The 3 scrambled to shout, each louder than the last. Lu Ruan said nothing more. She turned and walked over to me. Let's go. I stood in place, glancing at the motionless Zhao something lying at the end of the alley, then at the 4 kneeling on the ground. Junior Sister Lu, is he all right? He won't die? That slap of yours, did you use spiritual power? No. Then how did he fly so far? Lu Ruan didn't answer. She walked forward without looking back. I followed her. After a few steps, a voice came from behind, trembling and tearful. Senior Sister Lu. We were wrong. We won't dare to do it again. Lu Ruan didn't look back. I couldn't help but look back. The 4 of them were still kneeling on the ground, not one of them daring to stand up. I turned back and caught up with Lu Ruan's pace. Junior Sister Lu. MHM. How did you know I was here just now? I couldn't find you after I finished buying the medicine, so I came looking for you. Oh. We walked one after the other up the mountain path. The setting sun was behind us, stretching our shadows long. When we reached the mountain gate, she stopped. Senior brother Shun. Yes. If anyone bullies you again, call for me immediately. Okay. Don't just endure it. Okay. And don't say it's nothing, either. All right. She said no more and walked quickly into the sect grounds. I stood where I was, watching her figure disappear into the twilight, and scratched my head. Then I smiled. Shouldering my broom, I followed her at a leisurely pace. The setting sun dyed everything gold. Upon returning to the gate, I passed the training grounds and saw second senior brother meditating there. He opened his eyes at the sound of my footsteps. What happened to your face? It's nothing, I just scraped it. Second senior brother said nothing. He stood up, walked over to me, and took a look. Ooh, a few disciples from the Qingyun Sect. He nodded. I'm going to return my sword. I watched the direction he was heading. It wasn't the sword repository at all. It was toward the mountain gate. He was going to settle the score. Second senior brother. I quickly shouted after him. Junior Sister Lu already taught them a lesson. He didn't look back. That guy was already sent flying. He still didn't look back. Second senior brother, SEC. He walked away. His back was straight, his pace neither fast nor slow, but every step was steady. I stood where I was, not knowing whether to laugh or be worried. On second thought, there didn't seem to be any need for worry. Given second senior brother's temperament, those people at the foot of the mountain would likely be long gone by the time he got there. Watching second senior brother walk away into the distance, I shouldered the broom bristles alone and headed toward the storage room. As I reached the corner, I saw Lu Ruan standing there. She hadn't gone back to the courtyard. She was leaning against the wall with her arms crossed, as if waiting for someone. Seeing me approach, she straightened up, walked over, and took the 3 bundles of broom bristles from my shoulder again. I can carry them myself. Shut up. She walked forward with the broom bristles on her shoulder. I followed behind her. When we reached the door of the storage room, she leaned them against the wall and turned around to look at me. She looked at me for quite a while. Does your face still hurt? It doesn't hurt anymore. Let me see. She leaned in a little closer. I instinctively took a step back. Don't move. Her fingers touched the red mark on my face, very lightly, as if she were afraid of hurting me. It's red, she said. It'll be fine by tomorrow. She didn't say anything. She pulled a small porcelain bottle from her sleeve, uncorked it, and dabbed a bit of ointment on her fingertip. Don't move. She gently applied the ointment to my face. It felt cool, carrying a faint medicinal fragrance. She applied it with great care, her brow slightly furrowed, as if she were performing some delicate task. I didn't say a word. Neither did she. It was quiet at the door of the storage room, save for the distant hum of the exhaust fan in the cafeteria. Finished. She tucked the porcelain bottle back in her sleeve, took a step back, and sized me up. Next time someone tries to slap your face, won't you dodge? I didn't react in time. Remember that for next time. All right. As she turned to leave, I called out, Junior Sister Lu. Thank you. Her footsteps faltered for a moment. No need for thanks. Then, do you still owe me a favor? She turned back and gave me an exasperated glare. I do. Then when will you pay it back? Whenever you need it. Well, I need it right now. Help me throw away those old brooms in the storage room. They've been piling up for a long time. She looked at me with a complicated expression. Qingyun, are you doing this on purpose? Doing what on purpose? She took a deep breath. Just you wait. Once the mark on your face fades, I'll settle the score with you. She turned and walked away, her pace brisk. But I saw it. Her ears had turned red. I stood there, scratching my head, and then I smiled. In the distance, the aroma of spare ribs wafted from the direction of the dining hall. Old Man Zhang's voice boomed from inside, full of vigor. Dinner's ready. All of you, get over here right now. I turned toward the dining hall. As I passed the courtyard where Lu Ruan lived, the lights were on. She must have already gone inside. I laughed and couldn't help but quicken my pace. Old Man Zhang's spare ribs were a specialty here in our Qingyun Sect. They wouldn't be as good once they got cold.